What is up, Patriots? Welcome to O'Connor's Quick Strike. Man, I'm so damn glad you're here. I'm John O'Connor. It's Friday, October 10th, and I gotta tell you, I am ready for this weekend. I mean, I'm still gonna be putting in some hours at my day job, but sometimes that's what you gotta do to pay the bills. What about you guys? Got anything fun planned? Maybe hitting up a historical site, checking out a museum, visiting a battlefield? Listen, if you do, take some pictures and send them my way. I'm one of those weirdos who actually gets excited about old buildings and monuments. Can't help it. History just does it for me. But, alright, enough about my weekend plans and yours. Let's talk about why you're really here. I've got 3 stories for you today that are absolutely wild. And the mainstream media is doing everything they can to pretend these stories don't exist. By the time we're done, you're going to understand exactly why they're so desperate to keep you in the dark. So, let's do this. Let's get into this.
3.
Here's what happened Sunday morning, October 5th, that you probably never heard about. Because I didn't until I did some deep diving. In Washington, D.C., at the Cathedral of St. Matthew the Apostle, it's about 5 a.m., and police are securing the area for the annual Red Mass, a traditional service for judges and lawyers that Supreme Court justices typically attend to mark the start of their new term. An officer finds a guy named Geri, 41 years old, from New Jersey, camped out in a green tent on the steps of the cathedral. The officer asks him to move because they're trying to prep for the event. And here's what Geri says, and I quote from the police affidavit. "You might want to stay back and call the federals. I have explosives." Now, at this point, most people would think he's bluffing, right? Maybe just some crazy homeless guy trying to scare cops away from his tent. Except he wasn't bluffing. When the bomb squad searched his tent, they found over 200 handmade explosive devices. We're talking Molotov cocktails, bottle rockets modified with aluminum foil heads treated in thermite solution, grenades containing nitromethane with rubber bands securing fuses for the detonation. This wasn't some kid with fireworks. This was a fully operational bomb factory on the steps of a church where Supreme Court justices were about to arrive at. But it gets worse. Police also found a 9-page manifesto, and according to the police affidavit, this manifesto revealed his significant animosity towards the Catholic Church, members of the Jewish faith, members of SCOTUS, and ICE facilities. Let me break down what this guy was targeting. Catholics, Jews, the Supreme Court, and ICE agents. Does that sound like a MAGA extremist to you? Or does that sound like every left-wing activist's hit list? When police tried to get him to leave, Geri held up a butane lighter to vials of yellow liquid and said, again, this is direct from police records. You better have these people step away, or there's going to be deaths. Eventually, they got him when he left the tent to urinate on a tree. They found a vial with yellow liquid and an M device taped to the exterior in his pocket. The bomb squad recovered over 200 devices from his tent. Now, here's my question for you, Patriots. Where's the wall-to-wall media coverage? Where's CNN doing a week-long special on domestic terrorism? Where is MSNBC with the panel discussions about political violence? If this had been a MAGA guy with 200 bombs outside a mosque, it would be the only story in America for a month. We'd have congressional hearings, think pieces about Trump's rhetoric, and Democrats calling for gun control. But this? A left-wing terrorist with a manifesto targeting Catholics, Jews, and conservative Supreme Court justices? The Daily Wire covered it. Fox News mentioned it. Conservative outlets reported it, sort of. But ABC, CBS, NBC, the New York Times? You probably have no idea this even happened. And that tells you everything you need to know about the media, how the media operates. They are not journalists. They are propagandists. When violence comes from their left, they bury it. When violence comes from the right, or when they can pretend it comes from the right, they plaster it across every screen in America. Justice Amy Coney Barrett said recently she won't live in fear, despite the threats. But the American people deserve to know when someone shows up with 200 bombs trying to kill Supreme Court justices. This happened 5 days ago. Ask your liberal friends if they've heard about it.
2.
All right. Let's move from the terrifying to the pathetic. Because Kamala Harris is having a week that can only be described as a complete public meltdown. On October 7th and 8th, Kamala appeared at events at Howard University. And Patriots, I'm not sure what was happening, but the videos that came out are absolutely wild. First, she starts dropping F-bombs in public, speaking about the Trump administration. She says, and this is on the video, "In fact, these MFers are crazy." Now, look, I'm not clutching pearls about my language, but this is the former Vice President of the United States at a public event, and observers who were there said she appeared to be slurring her words and stumbling through her remarks. Multiple videos circulated on social media showing her giving rambling, incoherent answers that people said looked like she'd been drinking. One video shows her trying to explain something in its pure word salad. The classic Kamala we all remember, except now it seems even worse. But here's the really delusional part. While she's dropping F-bombs and slurring through speeches, she's also claiming that Trump has no mandate. Let me quote her directly. "It was the tightest, closest presidential election in the 21st century. He does not have a mandate. It is not a mandate." Patriots, let me remind Kamala of something called reality. Trump won the popular vote. Trump won the Electoral College. Republicans won the Senate. Republicans won the House. That's a mandate. That's what a mandate looks like. But Kamala is living in Brentwood, California, collecting her $245,000 salary while doing absolutely nothing, and telling us that the American people didn't give Trump a mandate. The denial is staggering. And here's what makes this even more pathetic. Remember when Kamala was supposed to be the future of the Democratic Party? Now she's the cautionary tale about promoting someone based on checking boxes instead of competence. She spent 4 years as VP doing nothing, saying nothing coherent, and now she's reduced to cursing at college events while pretending the election wasn't a landslide. The Democrat Party is watching their former VP stumble around drunk at Howard University, dropping F-bombs and claiming Trump lost. And they are thinking, thank God we didn't run her again. Even Democrats know she's a disaster. Even they can't defend this. The woman couldn't even win her own state's primary in 2020. She dropped out before Iowa. And Joe Biden still picked her because she checked the right demographic boxes. Now, she's the living embodiment of everything wrong with identity politics. Put the wrong person in the job because of their race and gender. Watch them fail spectacularly. And then watch them blame everyone else while cursing out the American people who rejected them. The woman couldn't even win her own state's primary in 2020, and now she's collecting a government salary while Trump is negotiating Middle East peace deals. Let that sink in. Now, let's get to the story that might be the biggest smoking gun we've seen in years. On October 7th, just this week, CIA Director John Ratcliffe declassified documents that prove Joe Biden ordered the CIA to suppress intelligence about his family's corrupt business dealings in Ukraine. This isn't speculation. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is declassified CIA documents showing exactly what happened. Here's the timeline. In December 2015, then Vice President Joe Biden visited Ukraine. Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko hoped Biden would discuss substantive matters with the government. Instead, Biden basically gave a generic public speech and left. After the visit, senior Ukrainian officials were baffled. The CIA wrote up an intelligence report titled Reactions of Ukrainian Officials to the Early December Visit of Senior United States Government Official. And what did that report say? According to the declassified documents, Ukrainian officials expressed, and I quote, bewilderment and disappointment that Biden came to Kyiv almost exclusively to give a public speech and, quote, had no intention of discussing substantive matters with Poroshenko or other officials within the Ukrainian government, end quote. But here's where it gets damning. The report stated that Ukrainian officials within the Poroshenko administration, and I quote, privately mused at the U.S. media's scrutiny of the alleged ties of the U.S. vice president's family to corruption in Ukraine as evidence of a double standard within the United States government towards matters of corruption and political power, end quote. Let me translate that from CIA speak. Ukrainian officials thought it was hypocritical that the United States was lecturing them about corruption while the vice president's son was sitting on the board of a corrupt Ukrainian energy company making tens of thousands of dollars a month. So, what did Biden do when the CIA wrote this report? He buried it. On February 10th, 2016, a CIA email was sent with the subject line OVP query regarding draft. OVP means Office of the Vice President. The email said, "Good morning. I just spoke with VP NSA, and he would strongly prefer the report not be disseminated. Thanks for understanding." The Vice President of the United States told the CIA he would strongly prefer they don't share intelligence about his family's corruption. And the CIA complied. The report was never disseminated. It stayed buried in the CIA files for almost a decade. Now, Patriots, remember the context here. This is early 2016. Hunter Biden is on the board of Burisma, making tens of thousands of dollars a month. Ukrainian prosecutor Viktor Shokin is investigating Burisma. And Joe Biden is about to go back to Ukraine and threaten to withhold $1 billion in U.S. aid unless they fire Shokin. Biden himself bragged about this at the Council on Foreign Relations in 2018. He said he told the Ukrainians, "I'm leaving in 6 hours if the prosecutor is not fired. You're not getting the money." And the mainstream media told us this was all fine. They told us there was nothing corrupt about any of this. They told us anyone who questioned it was spreading Russian disinformation. But now we have the CIA's own documents showing that even Ukrainian officials at the time thought Biden's family ties were corruption in its own and created a double standard in U.S. policy. And we have proof that Biden ordered the CIA to hide this intelligence from the rest of the U.S. government. This is the definition of corruption. This is a vice president using his position to suppress intelligence that makes him look bad. This is the politicization of our intelligence agencies. And here's the kicker. Real Clear Politics broke the story. Fox News slightly covered it. Red State wrote about it. But CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, silent. Because this story destroys their entire narrative about Trump and Russia and corruption. This proves that Biden and his family were the corrupt ones all along. This proves the laptop was real, the impeachment inquiry was justified, and everything we've been saying for years was true. CIA Director Ratcliffe said he's releasing these documents because transparency is important, and the agency wants to avoid any future weaponization or politicization of the intelligence community. Translation? The CIA under Biden was politicized. They buried intelligence to protect the vice president. And now that Trump is back in office, we're going to expose exactly what happened. This is the swamp, Patriots. This is what Trump has been fighting against. Career bureaucrats who will lie, cheat, and suppress intelligence to protect their political allies. A media that will refuse to report the truth when it doesn't fit their narrative, and politicians like Biden who use their position to enrich their families while lecturing the rest of us about integrity. The documents are public now. You can read them yourself, and every single American should be outraged that our intelligence agencies were used in this way. So, there you have it, Patriots. 3 stories the mainstream media either buried or completely ignored. A left-wing terrorist with 200 bombs targeting Catholics, Jews, and Supreme Court justices. Barely a blip in the news. Kamala Harris publicly melting down, cursing, and denying reality while collecting a $250,000 salary to do nothing. And Joe Biden, caught red-handed ordering the CIA to suppress intelligence about his family's corruption in Ukraine. This is why I do Quick Strike. This is why I don't rely on the mainstream media. Because they're not going to tell you the truth. They're going to tell you what fits their narrative. But I'm going to keep exposing it. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'll be bringing you the stories that they don't want you to know. Stay informed, Patriots. Stay engaged. And don't let them lie to you. I'm John O'Connor. This is O'Connor's Quick Strike, and I'll see you Monday. Have a great weekend.